recently, Nicholette and I went home, and it was like a surprise visit home. We didn't plan on going home for another couple months.
Hey, what's up, Chucky?
Ryan!
Hey, Dad.
It was kind of crazy.
We had a couple weeks in between doctor's appointments, and we were in our home state. So we're like, let's go surprise our family.
Where'd you come from?
Cleveland.
Cleveland. In Cleveland.
We wanted to surprise you.
Are you surprised?
I was very surprised.
Let's, stay in a house for a couple days. Really just see what it's like to be home. We've been gone for 5 months. It's not like van life has been amazing towards us.
All natural, chamomile and lavender.
Ooh.
Very good for your skin, and it's an oil.
Ooh, look at you, Mom.
She's a natural video. Let's see what she's doing over here. So you're only allowed up for an hour a day, and this is what you choose to do?
First couple months were great, but then we had our medical issues, so we haven't really been doing what we planned on doing when we built the van. So it's been a little different.
So with that in mind, what we're going to talk about this video is, do we regret van life? Most people when they do van life, normally some things come up, but they don't normally get stuck on bed rest for 3 to 4 months the first year of van life. So
no, that would only happen to us.
Yeah. So with that in mind, our consideration is, do we regret van life? And we're going to just be as open and authentic as possible. It's not like we super prepared for this, but we wanted to talk about it and consider a few different things, like the financials of van life, the travel part, the logistics, and just overall, is van life the life for us?
Do we miss our family? Do we miss living in a home? Do we miss the structure and stability? All those things.
Through our experience, maybe we could help you make a decision about if this is the life for you. So
yeah, because it is a different life, and a lot of people think it's really weird. I noticed that
Yeah,
even going back to visit, people still were like, oh, you're gonna sleep in the van? Why would you do that? They still don't get it. So I do understand that it's unconventional. So
going home was pretty cool. We got to see Nicolette's sister and her mother.
we stopped where my sister worked,
I'll walk Finley.
and I got a falafel wrap.
And I got...
Look how good that looks. She's such a good cook. Brian got this chicken kebab over rice. Is it good?
You open this? Alright, so listen to me, your clothes in the dryer.
And my mother...
Oh, I love you. I do.
I saw a friend. Hey. It is good to see you too. And
We saw little Finley.
we saw Finley, who's awesome.
Our
I actually
nephew.
I love Finley. He's not a human, but he's our nephew. And
He's very rambunctious little guy. He'll definitely put a smile on your face because he's so hyper happy and living life.
he's cute. Oh, the cutest.
You look good with that. You're perfect.
Hi.
You thought we left. So it was really cool to see everyone. And we also saw Nicolette's dad, who we were surprising him, Father's Day was here. So we decided okay, it'd be good to go see him. And we didn't stay too long. We planned on literally just fitting this in between Nicolette's medical appointments.
What was it, 5 days?
5 days, something like that. So when we started van life, we already lived in it, and it wasn't even done. And it was kind of exciting for us because that was our goal, and we worked towards it for a couple years.
Remember how messy it was? When
yeah,
we
it
first
was
moved
actually really
in,
messy.
we just moved all of our crap in here, and it was just a tornado through here. And it took a couple weeks to get it even. We had to build storage to put our stuff away. So that took a couple weeks to get together, and that was stressful. So now living in it now is
Well, then we left, and we started van life, and we crystal mine, and we have an Etsy store, and that was our goal let's go crystal mine. And Nicolette was more successful than me with crystal mining, and we did great. And we had a couple months of really just experiencing van life and getting used to it, and then we experienced a tornado, and then Nicolette had her spinal cord related injury, which was a pressure sore in an area that she can't really sit on it.
Yeah.
And then that just kept, it's still going on.
My heart
that was March.
When I discovered that, I knew it was. I'm this is gonna really derail our current plan of New Mexico and mining, some
turquoise.
turquoise.
I'm sure there's people that think, well, you know, if she has medical issues, she should be in a hospital, or she should be in an apartment or in a home.
Yeah, we do get that.
That's one thing I think that is a good question for Nicholette, is does she regret living in the van while having medical issues?
My butt hurts. One thing I want to say is that the only difference is I actually get to still kind of live my life more, because my bed is in a van and I can be driven around and I can open my door and see the forest and open my door and see whatever we decide to see that day. So honestly, I think it's better. The only things that are harder is like when I do go to a doctor's appointment, where are we going to ship your supplies to? I have to kind of work with them more. Say, hey, I do travel.
Yeah.
And can I ship my supplies to you guys? And usually, I mean, everyone's been so accommodating, so I don't even know if it's actually an issue, but that's been like the
Something
most
to think about.
confusing part is like, normally people need an address to do things, but I have found that we're able to navigate it. So like if you want to navigate it,
You
navigatable.
can.
But as far as being on bed rest, I've been on bed rest a couple times in my life, and bed rest in the van is my favorite. So.
Well, that answers that. So as far as medical issues on the road, that's not a regret for choosing van life over traditional home. I guess another question would be, how about for our relationship? You know, is it tougher living in a small 72 square foot, probably like 30 square foot, because everything's kind of covered.
Yeah.
Is it tougher on our relationship living in here rather than a traditional home? And I'll start with this one. I think the first thing to consider is, before, when Nicholette and I lived in apartments and homes, as a former foster youth, I like to like run away when there's problems or things that we have to work out, and
Yeah,
I'm able to just like go walk or
there's going to be any
visit a friend or
conversation happening. It was like,
any
okay.
tough conversation.
Yeah.
Now I can't do that. Nicholette and I, you know, our home is the van, and she's on bed rest and she's relying on me. So it actually forces us to really work through anything that does come up. And that is a plus for our relationship, because it's helped us communicate better. It's helped me have to face some of the, like, you know, earlier trauma in my life that made me want to do that.
You can't just run anymore. You have to just be like,
Well, let's talk about
let's face it.
Yeah, even if we take, you know, a day to not think about it and then talk about it. So, you know, life, nothing is perfect, but being in a relationship with someone, it's kind of cooler being in a van, because her and I can be like, well, do we want to go to the beach this week? And it's kind of held up because we're limited to medical places right now, like Nicolette's medical appointments. But I know when that's over, we're going to be able to choose, you know, if we want to go to Florida or Maine or Canada or wherever. And I really like the idea of Nicholette and I traveling the world together, starting with America.
That being said, we do give each other space. Like, I'll go outside for like 4 hours one day and just lay and do bed rest out there, and that gives Brian space to be in the van alone, and you know, vice versa. So I feel like those things, you'll go play basketball and I'll just relax in here.
Yeah.
And those things are important. So like, we're not like constantly up each other's butts. We do give each other a little bit of space, you know, when we're feeling like we need space. So that's important too, because everybody needs a little bit of space. And there's not like we can't get space when you live in a van. It's actually easier almost, because we can go, let's drive here and you can play basketball and I'll chill. And it's like, it was nice to have, you know, a nice structured apartment with like all the amenities. I'm not going to lie and tell you it's not nice, but
We're actually about to pass Nicholette in my old apartment building, the place we lived right before building and living in our van. And that's our old apartment building, that one right there.
if your love for adventure is there, like, I don't think you're really going to miss, you know, structure too much. I don't.
I guess the one weird thing for me is we went back home to visit, and Scranton kind of seemed the same. You know, like everyone's there, every place is there, and Scranton will always be Scranton, right? That's where I'm from. Nicolette's from right around there. We're both born in Scranton. But it's kind of weird that we go there, we chill for 5 days, and then it's like, well, let's drive a couple hours, and that's our home now. Wherever, you know, whatever direction we went. And then tomorrow we'll drive another couple hours, and that'll be our home now, you know, for however long we choose. It could be a couple days, it could be 3 months. You know, it really does not matter. So it's a very, very different lifestyle than to live in a home that is set into a foundation and can't move, or even in a mobile home, that can move, but it requires a lot of logistics and buying new land. Nicholette in my home doesn't require land or foundations. We just, drive around and we
make
park
our
somewhere.
land wherever we feel like it. That's cool. Like yesterday,
That's
our
big for me.
land
I
was
like
a
it.
nice beach lake, and we just kind of like looked at that for hours, and that was our yard for the day. I get stir crazy a lot, so I feel like I like
Me too.
the way we can move around and be like, oh, I want to see this today, or I want to see that today, and we can just go and do that.
The last thing to talk about, I guess, would be financials. So, do we financially regret making the choice to buy the van, renovate it, live in it, or even just basically, do we financially regret the monthly expense of living in a van and traveling compared to when we lived in an apartment?
I think it's the same. I think we pay the same.
It's very similar.
We have our van payment, and then we pay for spots.
Sometimes.
A lot more than we did before I was off bed rest, because now we need hot water and stuff like that more often. So because of like my medical issues, we want to stay clean. We want to stay a little bit more, structured than we were before I was on bed rest. So we do pay for spots.
It's the van payment, a few hundred, which is, $600. The staying at places, which is a few $100 a month, $400. So we'll say that's $1,000.
There's still food, which you have to pay for that anyway.
Food, which is a few $100. So it's, and then gas, which is anywhere
How
from.
can we forget gas?
We've had months where it was $60 for the month, or $120, all the way up to $600 for the month, depending on how far we're driving. But on the top of that scale, it's still, even when we spent as much $600 on gas that month, it was still more affordable than, I think, our stationary apartment.
That's true. And we get to
similar.
choose how much gas are we spending that month. Like if we want to save money, we do okay, we can stay here and not really spend anything in gas this month if we want to. So that's the cool thing, is like you're in control of how much you're spending on gas, which is actually probably one of the biggest expenses.
It's one of the biggest, but yeah, I think it's worth it. So if we're spending very similar to what we did at the apartment or cheaper, and we get to travel, I think that's the dream. Is, a lot of people work their whole lives to be able to retire and travel in an RV. I mean, we're probably some of the youngest people at every place we park at, because most people work their whole lives and they retire and they do that. And the only difference is Nicholette and I, instead of buying a home and putting all of our money into a house and having to focus on that, I think I would have regret doing that and not experiencing life first, because I don't know what's going to happen, 10 years, 20 years from now.
But in a way, we did buy a home, because this is our home.
This is our home.
We did. This is our first home. So.
I would regret more living in a traditional home setting and not being able to travel, or only traveling once a year, than I would doing this. I know for sure that I have no regrets about the travel and this choice, honestly. I mean, I don't really live with regrets, but
the only thing is missing people and feeling like you want to be there for people. That's the hardest thing for me, and the main thing I miss. I just miss people, I guess. But there's FaceTime. I stay in contact, so it's really not too different. But that's the biggest thing for me. If I had to pick one con, it's just mainly just not being able to be right around your family if you want to be.
That's true. That is the one con. I have a different situation with family. Growing up as a former foster youth, as a foster kid, I'm not too connected with my family, but my family that I do speak to, I FaceTime them, and for me, that's pretty good.
When you appreciate your loved ones more, so that's cool.
That is cool.
And you could still be there. We can be anywhere if we need to be there for someone. That's another cool thing. If there was an emergency or something, we can get there and be there for whoever needed it, or they can be there for us. So it's not that's out of reach. We just have to travel a little bit and spend a little money to get there.
Traveling is almost nothing now. It costs money, but the act of doing it and the time it takes is part of our life. It's kind of in my mind, part of our work, part of our life. And I would travel 8 hours to be there for someone if we really needed to, easily, without a second thought.
Yeah,
and I think if I had a home and lived a traditional lifestyle, that would be harder for me to be able to make that commitment without rearranging everything. And, you know, our obligation is to ourselves, to Nicolette's health, and to the people we care about, and to our audience too, which is cool. So
Yeah. My sister asked me, she's like, isn't it weird to, like, that must be really weird to have to think about your battery and your power and getting that again when you run out. And I was just like, and it kind of made me, that is the biggest difference, is you have to be more conscious of your usage, which actually was one of the main reasons that I wanted to live this lifestyle, because I like being conscious of my usage and having a smaller footprint and just being more aware of what I'm using. And I don't have any issue with that, but that might not be for everyone. Like, normally you're connected to a grid, you got your power, you don't have to think about it. You got your water, you don't have to think about it. We have to think about all those things, but I really don't find a problem in that. I feel like it makes me use less and I appreciate it more. So I don't mind that part of the lifestyle at all. One of the biggest things I think people wonder is, like, does living in a van as a wheelchair user make my life harder? Do I regret living in a van, having all these medical issues and having to navigate everything? And to be honest, no. My life is hard either way. Whether I live in a home, whether I live in a van, I still have medical issues. I still have to deal with my everyday struggles that I have to go through. So it really does not make my life harder. Some people might think that it's, like, less safe and I need to be in a hospital or whatever, but in reality, living in this van, if I need to go to the hospital, I can go stay at the hospital. If I need to be somewhere else, I can go stay there. And Brian can stay right in the hospital with me if needed, or he can stay in the van in the parking lot if needed. So it's actually quite accommodating. And especially being on bed rest, I feel like it's been really freeing to be on bed rest and have my scenery change all the time, because normally I'm just looking at four walls in an apartment when I'm on bed rest, and that's not fun. I go really stir crazy. I find myself going less stir crazy being on bed rest in the van. So I don't regret living in the van. I don't regret giving up my apartment for the van, because if I really wanted to, I can always get that stuff back. But this is like an opportunity of a lifetime. And I'm glad we're doing it when we're young and we get to experience everything and do it together. I think it's probably the best decision we ever made. We were paying for an apartment, but also paying to go travel, and we were barely staying there. So I think this was the best decision for us. We're saving money doing it. We're able to travel anytime we want to. And we're having a great time. Even though I'm on bed rest, we're still having as good of a time as I think anybody ever could on bed rest. So it's not limiting to me. It doesn't make my life harder. It actually makes my life easier, especially when we get our lift. So I don't see really any barrier that the van brings to me. It actually only removes the barriers that I had before in traveling, because now I always have an accessible place to be if need be. I'm comfortable in here. Our bed is super comfy. I love it. We did stay in my sister's house for a few nights, which was really nice seeing her and being close to all of them. But my bed is the comfiest, and I'm happy to return back to the van. And I slept like a baby last night.
Normally, Nicholette and I have taken to doing weekly vlogs, and it's basically just the most authentic way for us to share the van life experience with no sugarcoating, no, showing only the good stuff. We kind of just show it as it is.
Which I think is really important. As you guys know, I always say it. I think it's important to not sugarcoat anything, because there's always good and bad.
Yeah. So our goal is to show van life. This is how it is, black and white. There's no, it's just how it is, good and bad, and just normal. We show it as normal as possible, and it can be boring for some, but this week we wanted to talk about, if we regretted it or not. Next week we will get back to doing our weekly vlog. So,
what's one thing you think you miss about structure? If we can think of one, since we're talking about, do we regret van life after visiting home, visiting our town, having a little bit more structure in the home? What's one thing we could each say that we miss, and one thing that we say we really are happy that we're not, experiencing?
There's not much I miss. I'm all about growth. I really didn't grow up with structure in my life. I lived in over 20 foster homes. I've found myself maturing and really growing a lot during this journey, whether it was finishing the commitment of building the van, and which turned out beautiful, or the commitment of Nicholette and I starting this YouTube channel and our Facebook page and really putting our lives out there and sharing it, or the commitment to me making sure that I'm there for my partner day in and day out and that she can always rely on me. That's something, you know, I've really grown into, and I'm proud of the way that my life is and the man that I'm becoming, so I wouldn't take any of it back.
For me, my major thing I miss is just my immediate family, being able to see them often, and
Yeah.
I feel like I don't want to make anyone like sad by leaving, and I feel like sometimes it does that, so sorry y'all if it does that.
It's not on
Just
you.
trying to adventure.
You don't have to feel guilty for chasing your dreams.
True. And I can still be there for everyone, so. But the thing that I'm happiest for is like the sense of adventure that I have now, or like the opportunity for adventure is when you put yourself out here. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, we built a van and we don't really know where we're going day to day, and we really are just like, I call it fly
I don't
by
even know where I'm at right now. Seriously, I'm not even joking. I don't know the name of this place or like anything that's close. So.
I'm not sure I know either. I thought we were going somewhere. I don't think it's it. I don't really know where we are either.
So we like just pulled over randomly while driving to film this.
Yeah.
And we'll find out where we're at later, I guess.
And some people might think that's a little crazy, but that's my favorite part of it. I love seeing all these new places that I had no idea existed and just kind of going day by day and
It's funny.
making it happen.
I gotta go do my workout. So if Nicholette wants to keep talking, that's fine. But thanks for tuning in. Can't wait to show you guys our regular vlog next week.
So in conclusion, through all of that, do we regret van life? Do we regret, after visiting home and, you know, driving by our old apartment and seeing everyone, do we regret living in a van? I don't regret living in a van. I know Brian doesn't regret living in a van. I think that we're just ready to get my medical stuff cleared up so we can continue doing exactly what we love, which is traveling everywhere and experiencing life. And in the meantime, we're going to do that just a little bit more localized to doctor's appointments. Like I said, if you want to take this chance, you can always find another apartment. You can always find, you know, another home, but there's not always going to be more life for you waiting for you to take this opportunity to adventure, because things come up all the time. So if you stay in an area, there's always going to be something coming up that kind of prevents you.
Life isn't guaranteed.
Your life is not guaranteed. You know, anything can happen. So just taking that chance and doing it, like, why not? If you love adventure, if you're wondering, like, can you do it? You can do it. If we can do it with all the issues we have going on, anyone can do it. And that's kind of like our message.